Clara Whitmore couldn't stop shaking. The stagecoach door hung open. Wyoming dust settled on her torn traveling dress. The whole town of Willow Creek stared. She'd come 2,000 miles to marry a stranger, and now she had to tell him the truth. The man waiting for her, Ethan Callahan, stood silent, hat low, jaw tight. He'd been waiting 6 months for a wife. She opened her mouth. The words came out broken. "I lied to you." Before we go further, hit that subscribe button and watch this story to the very end. Comment below with your city. I want to see how far Clara's journey reaches. Now, let's continue. The stagecoach driver cleared his throat. "Miss, you getting out or staying on?" Clara forced her legs to move. Her boot hit dirt. She stumbled, caught herself, looked up. Ethan Callahan hadn't moved. 30 feet separated them. Might as well have been 30 miles. "I lied to you." Her voice cracked. Loud. Too loud. "I'm not the woman you think I am." The whispers started immediately. "Did she just... What kind of... Callahan's mail-order bride?" Ethan took one step forward. His boots kicked up dust. Then another step. Another. He stopped 3 feet away. Close enough she could see the scar on his left hand, the silver at his temples, the way his eyes stayed steady when hers couldn't. "Miss Whitmore." His voice was quiet, controlled. "You don't have to pretend with me." Clara's throat closed. "You don't understand. In Philadelphia they said I..." "Did you do it?" The question hit like a slap. "What?" "Whatever they accused you of." Ethan's tone didn't change. "Did you do it?" Clara met his eyes. Gray, patient, waiting. "No." A whisper. "I swear before God, I didn't." Ethan studied her face. 3 seconds. 5. 10. Then he removed his hat. The crowd gasped. "That's all I need to know, ma'am." He turned, faced the town. His voice carried clear down the street. "Miss Whitmore is under my protection now. Anyone got questions about her past? Bring them to me. Directly." A big man stepped forward from the boardwalk, badge on his chest. Sheriff Boone Avery. "Mighty quick to defend a woman you just met, Callahan." Boone spat tobacco juice. "You even know what she's running from?" "Don't matter what she's running from." Ethan's voice stayed level. "Matters what she's running to." "And what's that?" "Me." The word hung in the air. Boone's eyes narrowed. "You're making a mistake." "Mine to make." "Town's got a right to know what kind of woman." "The town," Ethan cut him off, "will know she's my wife. Tomorrow at noon. Pastor Mitchell's performing the ceremony. Anyone wants to attend, they're welcome. Anyone wants to gossip can do it elsewhere." He looked at Clara. "You still willin', Miss Whitmore?" Her mouth opened, closed. No sound came out. "I'm asking you a question, ma'am." Ethan's voice gentled. "You still willin' to marry me tomorrow?" "Why?" The word tore out of her. "You don't know what they said, what they..." "You traveled 2,000 miles to get here." Ethan settled his hat back on. "You got off that stage crying, which tells me you're honest enough to speak truth, even when it costs you. And you just gave me the chance to walk away." His jaw tightened. "That tells me more about your character than any letter could." Clara couldn't breathe. "So I'm going to ask one more time." Ethan's eyes held hers. "You still willin'?" She nodded. That's all she could manage. "Then let's get you settled." Ethan turned to the driver. "Her trunk?" "Right here, Mr. Callahan." "Appreciate it." Ethan lifted the trunk, started walking. Clara stood frozen for 3 heartbeats before her feet remembered how to move. The crowd parted, silent, staring. Clara kept her eyes forward, tried to ignore the whispers. Can't believe he's actually. That woman comes here with scandal? My husband says she's... Shut it. Ethan's voice, sharp. The whispers died. They walked in silence for half a block. Then Clara's voice came out small. They're all staring. Let 'em. They're going to talk. Already are. Ethan shifted the trunk to his other shoulder. After tomorrow, they'll have to be quieter about it. A woman stepped directly into their path. Tall, severe, lips pursed like she'd been sucking lemons. Mr. Callahan. Her voice dripped false sweetness. Perhaps you should reconsider this arrangement. Mrs. Thornton. Ethan didn't slow down. Move. I'm only thinking of your reputation. My reputation ain't your concern. The Church Ladies' Auxiliary has standards. Then I suggest you mind 'em for yourself, ma'am. Now move. Mrs. Thornton's face flushed red, but she stepped aside. Clara's hands shook harder. That's Mrs. Thornton, Ethan said quietly. Runs the Ladies' Auxiliary. She's going to be your biggest challenge. She hates me already. She don't know you yet. She doesn't want to know me. Clara's voice broke. None of them do. You saw their faces. They've already decided. Clara. Her name stopped her cold. First time he'd used it. Look at me. She did. This ain't Philadelphia. His voice was firm. And I ain't your father. The words hit like a punch to the chest. How did you... Your letters. Ethan started walking again. You never mentioned your family except once. Said your father was disappointed. That kind of word choice tells a story. Clara's vision blurred. He didn't believe me. When Edwin Mercer said when he told everyone that we... Her voice cracked. My own father chose his reputation over his daughter. Then your father's a coward. The bluntness of it shocked her into silence. Any man who won't stand by his own blood ain't worth the name father. Ethan's voice hardened. But I ain't him. And tomorrow, you'll be my wife, which means anyone who comes for you comes through me first. They reached a 2-story building. Mrs. Harlan's boarding house. A woman stood in the doorway, 50s, sturdy, wiping her hands on her apron. Mrs. Harlan, Ethan nodded. Room ready? Top of the stairs, second door. Mrs. Harlan's eyes fixed on Clara, assessing. Supper's at 6, no exceptions. Understood. Ethan set the trunk down inside. He turned to Clara. I'll be by tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock. That'll give us time. Mr. Callahan. Ethan. His voice softened. You're going to be my wife tomorrow. Might as well start using my given name. He tipped his hat, left. Clara watched him disappear down the street. Her whole body shook. You going to stand there all day? Mrs. Harlan's voice. Or you going to come inside before you give the whole town more to gossip about? Clara turned. Mrs. Harlan's expression was unreadable. I know what you're thinking. The older woman picked up the trunk. Wondering if that man's crazy for defending you. Is he? Mrs. Harlan started up the stairs. Maybe, but Ethan Callahan's the kind of crazy this world needs more of. The room held a bed, a washstand, nothing else. Mrs. Harlan set the trunk down. Supper's at 6. Don't be late. Mrs. Harlan, Clara's voice came out small. Why is he doing this? Doing what? Defending me. He doesn't know me. Doesn't know what they said. What if... Clara's breath hitched. What if I'm everything they think I am? Mrs. Harlan turned. Her eyes were sharp. "Are you?" "No!" The word came out fierce. "I refused Edwin Mercer multiple times. He got angry. And then he told everyone that we'd—" Shame choked her. "He destroyed my reputation because I wouldn't—" "Stop." Mrs. Harlan's voice cut through. "I don't need the details. All I need to know is, did you do what they accused you of?" "No." "Then the rest don't matter." She moved to the door. "Ethan Callahan's got a gift for seeing through people. If he says you're worth defending, then you're worth defending." "But what if he's wrong?" "He ain't." Mrs. Harlan paused in the doorway. "That man survived a war, lost his entire family, came out here to build something from nothing. You think a man like that makes decisions lightly?" She left. Clara sank onto the bed. Her reflection stared back from a small mirror over the washstand. Hollow eyes, tear-stained face, hair coming loose from its pins. The ruined woman from Philadelphia. Tomorrow, she'd be Mrs. Ethan Callahan. If she didn't run first. 6 o'clock came too fast. Clara descended the stairs. Voices drifted from the dining room. "Heard she confessed right there in the street. Scandalous. What kind of woman? Callahan must be desperate." Clara froze on the bottom step. "You gonna hide up there all night?" Mrs. Harlan appeared in the doorway. "Or you gonna come eat?" No choice. Clara entered the dining room. 6 people sat at the table. 3 ranch hands, a traveling salesman, a woman about Clara's age, and Sheriff Boone Avery. The conversation died. "Miss Whitmore." Boone's voice was polite. Too polite. "Didn't expect to see you at supper." "She's a paying guest." Mrs. Harlan set down a platter of roast beef. "Same as you, Sheriff. Now eat." Clara slid into the only empty chair, directly across from Boone. The woman next to her leaned in. "I'm Sarah Mitchell, pastor's daughter." "Clara Whitmore." "Oh, I know who you are." Sarah's smile was razor sharp. "The whole town knows." One of the ranch hands coughed into his coffee. "So you're marrying Mr. Callahan tomorrow." Sarah cut her beef with precise movements. "That's quite sudden, isn't it?" "We've been corresponding for 6 months." "Of course, but still, coming all this way to marry a stranger?" Sarah's voice dripped sympathy. "It must have been difficult, leaving Philadelphia so quickly." Clara's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "What do you mean?" "Oh, nothing." Sarah's eyes were innocent. "Just that most women who travel this far are usually running from something." The ranch hands shifted uncomfortably. Sheriff Boone leaned back in his chair. "That's an interesting point, Miss Mitchell. What exactly are you running from, Miss Whitmore?" Silence fell like a hammer. Clara's hands shook. She set down her fork carefully, looked Boone straight in the eye. "I'm running from men like you, Sheriff." Boone's eyebrows rose. "Men like me?" "Men who judge before they know the truth. Men who'd rather believe gossip than ask questions. Men who think a woman's reputation is worth less than dirt." Her voice strengthened. "In Philadelphia, a man lied about me, said things that weren't true, and men like you believed him, because it was easier than standing up for what's right." The room held its breath. "That's a serious accusation," Boone said slowly. "It's the truth." Clara stood. Her chair scraped against the floor. "And tomorrow, I'm marrying Ethan Callahan, a man who asked me one question. Did you do it? And believed my answer. That's more than any man in Philadelphia ever gave me." She looked around the table. "So yes, I'm running. From cowards, from liars, from people who choose scandal over justice." Her eyes landed on Sarah. "And from women who smile while they stab you in the back." Sarah's face flushed scarlet. Clara turned to Mrs. Harlan. "Thank you for the meal, ma'am, but I'm not hungry anymore." She left, made it to her room, closed the door. Then she started shaking. Not from fear, from rage. How dare they? How dare they sit there and judge her, smile and whisper and assume? A knock. "Go away." The door opened anyway. Mrs. Harlan entered carrying a tray. "That," she said, setting down bread and tea, "was either the bravest thing I've seen in years, or the stupidest. I don't care which." "You should." Mrs. Harlan poured tea. "You just made an enemy of the sheriff, and Sarah Mitchell's going to tell every woman in town what you said." "Good." Clara's voice was fierce. "Let them talk. I'm done pretending to be ashamed of something I didn't do." Mrs. Harlan studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled. Actually smiled. "Maybe Ethan ain't wrong about you after all." She left. Clara drank the tea, ate the bread, changed into her nightgown. Then she stood at the window. The street below was dark, empty, except for one figure, a man on horseback, sitting still in the shadows across the street, watching the boarding house. Clara's breath caught. As she watched, the figure turned. Moonlight caught his face for just a second. Sheriff Boone. Their eyes met. He didn't move, just stared up at her window. Then he touched his hat brim, a mock salute, and rode away into darkness. Clara's hands gripped the windowsill. Her heart hammered. Tomorrow she'd marry Ethan Callahan. But tonight, someone was watching, and whatever scandal she'd left behind in Philadelphia, it wasn't the only danger waiting for her in Willow Creek. Clara didn't sleep. She sat by the window watching shadows. Every sound made her jump. Every creak of the boarding house settling made her heart race. Sheriff Boone's face haunted her. That look, that knowing smile. He was going to ruin this, whatever Ethan was trying to build, whatever fragile hope Clara had allowed herself to feel. By the time dawn light crept across the floor, she'd made her decision. She had to leave. Not for herself, for Ethan. Clara pulled her trunk open, started packing, hands shaking but determined. Better to disappear now than watch him lose everything because of her. The door opened without warning. Mrs. Harlan stood there, took one look at the half-packed trunk. "Don't even think about it." "I can't stay," Clara's voice cracked. "You saw what happened last night. The sheriff, Sarah Mitchell, they're going to destroy him." "So you're going to run?" "I'm going to protect him." Clara shoved another dress into the trunk. "He doesn't know what he's gotten into, what people will do. I've seen it before. In Philadelphia. They'll turn the whole town against him, ruin his business, destroy everything he's built. And you think running solves that? It's the only thing that will." Mrs. Harlan crossed her arms. "You really think Ethan Callahan's going to just let you disappear? He won't know until I'm gone." "Wrong." The voice came from the hallway. Ethan stepped into view. Clara's breath stopped. He was early. 2 hours early. Still wearing yesterday's clothes like he hadn't slept either. His eyes went to the trunk, then to Clara's face. "Step outside, Mrs. Harlan." His voice was quiet, dangerous. "Ethan, please." Mrs. Harlan left, closed the door behind her. Silence stretched between them. Ethan didn't move from the doorway, just stared at Clara with those gray eyes. "You were going to run." Not a question, a statement. Clara lifted her chin. "Yes." "Why?" "Because I won't let you lose everything for me." Her voice shook, but held firm. You don't know these people, what they're capable of. I've lived through this before. The whispers, the judgment, the way they turn on you. First it's just gossip, then it's business, then it's... You think I don't know? Ethan's voice cut through. You think I came to Wyoming by choice? Think I built a ranch from nothing because I had other options? He stepped into the room. The door clicked shut. I know exactly what people are capable of, Clara. I watched a town in Virginia turn on my family after the war. Watched them burn our farm because my father fought for the Union. Watched my mother die from the smoke. My sister from the fever that followed. Clara's hands went to her mouth. So don't stand there and tell me I don't understand. Ethan's voice dropped lower. I understand better than you think. And I'm still here, still offering you my name, still willing to face whatever comes. But why? The question tore out of her. Why would you risk everything for someone you don't even know? Ethan moved closer, stopped 3 feet away. Because 6 months ago, I got a letter from a woman who wrote, I know I'm asking a great deal of a stranger, but I can promise you this. I will work hard, I will be honest, and I will never take your sacrifice for granted. His jaw tightened. You want to know why I'm willing to risk everything? Because a woman who writes those words, who travels 2,000 miles based on letters, who gets off a stage crying and still tells the truth? He paused. That's a woman worth fighting for. Clara couldn't breathe. Now, Ethan's voice gentled. You got 2 choices. You can get on the next stage east, run back to Philadelphia, prove everyone right who said you were just a scandal looking for a place to hide. He held her gaze. Or you can marry me at noon. Stand beside me and show this town that their gossip don't mean a damn thing. Clara's throat closed. They'll destroy you. Maybe, Ethan's mouth quirked. Or maybe they'll learn that Ethan Callahan don't break easy. He moved to the door, stopped. Wedding's at noon. I'll be waiting at the church. You don't show up, I'll understand. But Clara? She looked at him. If you do show up, there ain't no running after that. You'll be my wife, and I protect what's mine. He left. Clara sank onto the bed. Her whole body shook. Mrs. Harlan appeared in the doorway 30 seconds later. Well? I don't know what to do. Yes, you do, Mrs. Harlan's voice was firm. You just don't want to admit it. What if he's wrong? What if I ruin everything? What if you don't? Mrs. Harlan crossed to the trunk, started unpacking. What if you marry that man and build something better than anything you lost in Philadelphia? Clara watched her hands shake. I'm afraid. Good. Means you're smart. Mrs. Harlan pulled out Clara's best dress. Dark blue. Simple. Now get dressed. You got a wedding to attend. The church bell rang 11 times. Clara stood outside Pastor Mitchell's small chapel. Her hands gripped her reticule so tight her knuckles went white. The street was empty. Everyone was inside already, waiting, judging. She could still run. The stage east left at 1 o'clock. She could make it. You gonna stand there all day? A voice behind her. Clara turned. Mrs. Harlan stood there, wearing her Sunday best. I can't go in there. Yes, you can. They all hate me. Some do, some don't. Some ain't decided yet. Mrs. Harlan offered her arm. But Ethan's waitin', and that man don't deserve to stand up there alone wondering if you're comin'. Clara took her arm. They walked to the church doors. Mrs. Harlan pushed them open. Every head turned. The church was packed. Clara's breath caught. She'd expected a few people, Ethan's close friends maybe, But this, every pew was full. Sheriff Boone sat in the back, arms crossed, face unreadable. Sarah Mitchell sat with her father up front. Her expression was pure venom. Mrs. Thornton and her ladies' auxiliary occupied an entire row, whispering behind their hands. But other faces, too. Ranch hands, store owners, families Clara didn't recognize, all staring. Then she saw Ethan. He stood at the altar, Pastor Mitchell beside him. Ethan's face was calm, composed, but his hands were clenched at his sides. Their eyes met. He didn't smile, just gave one small nod. "I'm here. Are you?" Clara's feet moved. One step, another, down the aisle. The whispers rose like a wave. "Can't believe she actually... Shameful. Poor Ethan." Clara kept walking, eyes forward, chin up. She reached the altar, stood beside Ethan. He looked at her, really looked. "You came. I almost didn't." "But you did." His voice was quiet, just for her. "That's what matters." Pastor Mitchell cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" The ceremony was short, brutal in its simplicity. "Do you, Ethan Callahan, take this woman?" "I do." No hesitation, no doubt. "Do you, Clara Whitmore, take this man?" Clara's voice stuck in her throat. The church held its breath. "I..." She looked at Ethan, at the man willing to stand beside her, despite everything. "I do." "Then by the power vested in me..." "Wait!" Sheriff Boone's voice rang out. The church went silent. Boone stood. "Got a question for the bride." "Sit down, Boone." Ethan's voice was steel. "Just one question." Boone walked up the aisle, slow, deliberate. "Miss Whitmore, you told us yesterday you were falsely accused in Philadelphia. That right?" Clara's heart hammered. "Yes." "By a man named Edwin Mercer?" The name hit like a physical blow. Clara stumbled back. "How do you know that name?" Boone pulled a paper from his vest. "Got a telegram this morning, from a colleague in Philadelphia. Seems Edwin Mercer's quite well known back east. Respected family. Engaged to be married to a senator's daughter." He unfolded the telegram, read aloud. "Says here you were dismissed from your teaching position for inappropriate conduct with a male student. That true?" The church erupted. "I knew it! Inappropriate conduct! Ethan, you can't possibly..." "Quiet!" Ethan's voice cracked like a whip. Silence fell. He looked at Boone. "You done?" "Just want to make sure you know what you're marrying, Callahan." "I know exactly what I'm marrying." Ethan turned to Clara. "Tell me what happened, right now, in front of everyone." Clara's vision blurred. This was it, the moment she'd been dreading. "Edwin Mercer was the headmaster's son." Her voice shook. "I was 22, teaching at his father's school. He pursued me, asked me to dinner, to walk with him. I refused, multiple times." She forced herself to continue. "One day he cornered me in the library after hours, tried to kiss me. I pushed him away. He got angry, said I'd been leaving him on, that I'd invited his attentions." Tears streamed down her face. "The next day, his father called me to his office, said there'd been reports of inappropriate behavior. Edwin had told him that we'd..." Her voice broke. "I denied it, swore it wasn't true. But Edwin's father believed his son. My own father..." She choked on the words. "My father chose silence, said I'd brought shame to the family. Told me to leave Philadelphia, before the scandal spread further. The church was dead silent. So I did. Clara looked around at all the judging faces. I left, came here, hoping to start over. And yes, Sheriff Boone, I lied. I didn't tell Ethan the whole truth in my letters. Because who would marry a woman whose reputation was destroyed? Who would give me a chance? She turned to Ethan. I'm sorry. I should have told you everything. I should have. Did you do it? Ethan's voice was calm. No. Did you invite his attentions? No. Did you lie about what happened in that library? No, fierce now. I swear before God I told the truth. Edwin Mercer lied, and everyone believed him because he was a man, because he was wealthy, because his father had power. Ethan stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned to face the church. Anyone here want to call my wife a liar? Silence. Anyone want to say she's lying about what that man did? No one spoke. Then shut your mouths, all of you. His voice was deadly quiet. Clara told me the truth the minute she got off that stage. Could have lied, could have kept pretending, but she didn't. She gave me the chance to walk away. He looked at Boone. You got any more questions, Sheriff? Boone's jaw worked. Just making sure you know what you're getting into, Callahan. I know exactly what I'm getting into, and I'm still standing here. Ethan's eyes swept the church. Now, unless someone's got legal cause to stop this wedding, I suggest we finish what we started. No one moved. Pastor Mitchell's voice shook slightly. By the power vested in me by the territory of Wyoming, I now pronounce you husband and wife. He paused. You may kiss the bride. Ethan turned to Clara, cupped her face gently, kissed her. It was soft, brief, a promise more than passion. When he pulled back, his thumb wiped away her tears. We're married now, he said quietly. That means whatever comes next, we face it together. Clara nodded, couldn't speak. They turned to walk down the aisle. The church was silent. No applause, no congratulations. Just cold, judgmental stares. Except for one person. Mrs. Harlan stood, started clapping. Slow, deliberate. One by one, others joined. A ranch hand, a store clerk, a woman Clara didn't recognize. Not everyone, but enough. They made it outside. The July sun blazed overhead. Ethan's wagon waited. He helped Clara up, climbed in beside her. Where are we going? Home. He snapped the reins. My ranch. Our ranch now. They rode in silence for 10 minutes. The town disappeared behind them. Grassland stretched endlessly ahead. Finally, Clara spoke. I'm sorry. For what? For not telling you everything. For making you defend me in front of everyone. For... Clara. Ethan's voice cut her off. Stop apologizing for things that ain't your fault. But the town will adjust. Or they won't. Either way, it ain't your problem. It's your problem now. Because of me. Ethan was quiet for a moment. You want to know the truth? About why I really married you? Clara looked at him. I was alone out here. 5 years. Built the ranch from nothing. Every day the same. Work, eat, sleep. No one to talk to. No one who gave a damn if I lived or died. His hands tightened on the reins. Then I got your letter. And for the first time in years, I had something to look forward to. Someone who might understand what it's like to start over. To build something new from the ruins of what you lost. He glanced at her. So yeah, Maybe I'm defending you, but you're also giving me a reason to stop being alone. And that's worth fighting for." Clara's throat closed. They crested a hill. The ranch spread below them. Clara's breath caught. It was smaller than she'd imagined. One main house, a barn, a few outbuildings, fences stretching toward distant hills. But something was wrong. The grass looked brown, dying. Cattle huddled near a half-dry creek. The whole place had an air of desperation. "It's the drought." Ethan's voice was tight. "Started early this year. Creeks are running low. Grass ain't growing. Lost 6 head of cattle already." Clara's heart sank. "How bad is it?" "Bad enough." He drove the wagon down the hill. "I've got enough saved to make it through fall if the rains come. If they don't—" He didn't finish. They reached the house. Ethan helped her down. The door opened. An older man stepped out, weathered, lean, eyes sharp. "This her?" "Clara, this is Tom Brennan. Works the ranch with me." Ethan's voice was careful. "Tom, this is my wife." Tom looked Clara up and down. "Heard about the trouble in town?" "I'm sure you did." "Boone's going to be a problem." "Let him try." Ethan started unloading Clara's trunk. "Right now, we got bigger worries. Creek's lower than yesterday." "I know." Tom's face was grim. "And I got news. Henderson's cutting off credit." Ethan froze. "What?" "Said his wife won't let him extend any more credit to—" Tom glanced at Clara. "To families with questionable reputations." The words hit like a slap. "That's Mrs. Henderson's doing." Ethan's jaw clenched. "Or Mrs. Thornton's. Probably both." "What does that mean?" Clara asked. "Means we can't buy supplies on credit anymore." Ethan set the trunk down hard. "Have to pay cash, which we're short on because of the drought." Guilt crashed over Clara. "Because of me, because of narrow-minded people." Tom's voice was firm. "But it's going to make things tight, boss." Ethan rubbed his face. "How much cash we got left?" "Enough for maybe 6 weeks, if we're careful." "Then we'll be careful." Ethan picked up the trunk again. "Show Clara inside. I'll check the cattle." He left. Tom watched him go, then turned to Clara. "You got courage, I'll give you that. Marrying him knowing the trouble you'd bring." "I didn't know it would be this bad." "It'll get worse before it gets better." Tom opened the front door. "But for what it's worth, Ethan's the best man I've ever worked for. If he says you're worth defending, then you're worth defending." Inside, the house was sparse, clean but minimal. One main room serving as kitchen and living space, a bedroom off to the side. "Ethan built this himself." Tom set down the trunk. "Every board, every nail. Took him 3 years." Clara looked around, saw the care in every corner, the precision, the pride. "I'll leave you to settle in." Tom moved to the door. "Supper's usually at 6. Nothing fancy, just whatever we got." He left. Clara stood alone in her new home. The silence pressed down. Outside, she heard Ethan talking to Tom, their voices low, worried. She'd done this. Brought her scandal here. Ruined his credit. Endangered his ranch. A letter sat on the small table. Clara saw her name. Philadelphia postmark. Her hands shook as she opened it. "Dear Clara, I hope this letter finds you well in your new life. I felt you should know. Edwin Mercer is engaged to Senator Bradford's daughter. The wedding is set for September. Everyone here speaks of him with such admiration, such respect. Meanwhile, your name is still whispered with shame. I thought you'd want to know that he's won. Completely. His reputation intact. his future secure, while you, wherever you are, carry the weight of his lies. I'm sorry. I wish I'd been braver. Your friend, Margaret. Clara's hands crumpled the letter. Tears streamed down her face. Edwin Mercer was engaged, living his perfect life, while she was here, struggling, fighting to survive in a place where even buying supplies was a battle because of the lies he'd told. The unfairness of it all crashed down. She sank to the floor. Great, shuddering sobs tore from her chest. That's how Ethan found her 20 minutes later. He stopped in the doorway, took in the scene, the crumpled letter, Clara's broken form. He crossed the room in 3 strides, knelt beside her. What happened? Clara couldn't speak, just handed him the letter. Ethan read it. His face went hard. This the man? Edwin Mercer? Clara nodded. He's engaged. Another nod. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he crumpled the letter into a ball, threw it across the room. Good for him. Clara looked up, shocked. What? Good for him, Ethan repeated. Hope he's very happy with his senator's daughter. Hope they have a beautiful wedding. Hope everyone back east keeps thinking he's wonderful. He cupped Clara's face. Because while he's playing pretend back there, you're here, with me, building something real. But he didn't win a damn thing. Ethan's voice was fierce. He got away with lying. That ain't winning. That's just being a coward. Clara's breath hitched. You want to know who won? Ethan pulled her to her feet. You did. You got out. You survived. You stood up in that church today and told the truth in front of everyone. That takes more courage than anything Edwin Mercer will ever have. He wiped her tears away. So don't you dare let that letter make you think you lost. You're here. You're my wife. And that man back east? He ain't worth another thought. Clara stared at him. At this man who kept choosing her, kept defending her, kept seeing worth where everyone else saw scandal. How do you do it? Do what? Stay so sure when everything's falling apart. The drought, the credit, the town. How do you stay so certain? Ethan's mouth quirked. Who says I'm certain? I'm scared as hell, Clara. Ranch is barely holding on. Town's turning on us. And I just married a woman I've known for all of 6 hours. He pulled her closer. But being scared don't mean giving up. It means fighting harder. And I've been fighting my whole life. I ain't about to stop now. Outside, thunder rumbled. They both turned to look. Dark clouds massed on the horizon. The first rain in weeks. But Clara knew one storm wouldn't save them. And the real storms were just beginning. The storm never came. The clouds rolled in, thunder rumbled, wind kicked up dust. Then, nothing. The clouds passed, the sun returned, the drought continued. Clara stood at the window the next morning, watching Ethan and Tom work the dying cattle. 3 more had died overnight. She hadn't told Ethan about the supplies running low, about how she'd counted the flour and beans and found barely enough for 2 weeks. The kitchen door opened. Tom entered, sweat-soaked, exhausted. Lost another one. That big roan Ethan paid top dollar for last spring. Clara's heart sank. Does he know? He knows. Tom poured water from the bucket, drank deep. He's burying it now. Through the window, Clara saw Ethan's figure bent over a shovel. Alone. She moved toward the door. Let him be. Tom's voice stopped her. Man needs to process things his own way. I should help. You want to help? Go to town. Get supplies. We're out of salt. Near out of coffee. But Henderson won't. Try anyway. Tom's face was grim. Maybe his wife ain't working the counter today. Clara grabbed her bonnet. The walk to town would take an hour. She didn't care. Sitting here feeling helpless was worse. She made it halfway down the road when hoofbeats sounded behind her. Sheriff Boone. He pulled his horse alongside. Didn't dismount. Just looked down at her. "Mrs. Callahan, where are you headed?" "Town, for supplies." "Long walk." "I don't mind." Boone's eyes narrowed. "Heard you lost more cattle." "Word travels fast." "It does in a small town." He leaned forward in his saddle. "You know what else travels fast? News from back east." Clara's stomach dropped. "What news?" "Got another telegram this morning, from my colleague in Philadelphia." Boone pulled a paper from his vest. "Says here Edwin Mercer's engaged to Senator Bradford's daughter. Wedding set for September." "I know. I received a letter." "Did you now?" Boone's smile was cold. "Well, here's something you might not know. My colleague asked around. Turns out you ain't the only girl Mercer's been inappropriate with." Clara froze. "What?" "2 other teachers before you. Both left under similar circumstances. Both accusing Mercer of the same things you did." Boone folded the telegram. Of course, nobody believed them either. Hope surged in Clara's chest. "Then you know I was telling the truth." "Don't matter what I know," Boone cut her off. "Matters what I can prove. And right now, all I got is rumors from back east and your word against his." "But if there are other women—" "Who ain't here to testify, who moved on, who probably want to forget it ever happened." Boone's voice hardened. "Face facts, Mrs. Callahan. Even if Edwin Mercer's guilty, he ain't gonna face consequences. Men like him never do." He started to ride off. Stopped. "But here's what I'm wondering. If I can find out about those other teachers with one telegram, what else might I find if I keep digging?" The threat was clear. "Are you threatening me, Sheriff?" "Just curious." Boone touched his hat brim. "Town's got a right to know what kind of people are settling here. Don't you think?" He rode away. Clara stood alone on the dusty road, shaking. Not from fear, from rage. She kept walking, faster now, practically running by the time she reached town. Henderson's Mercantile was busy. Saturday morning, half the town shopping for the week. Clara pushed through the door. Conversations died. Everyone stared. Mrs. Henderson stood behind the counter. Her face went cold. "We're closed." "Your sign says open." "Closed to you," Mrs. Henderson's voice carried through the store. "We don't serve women of questionable character." The other customers shifted uncomfortably. Some nodded approval. Others looked away. Clara's hands clenched. "I need salt and coffee. I can pay cash." "I said we're closed." "The store is clearly open. You're serving other customers." "Those customers are respectable members of this community." Mrs. Henderson's chin lifted. "You're not." Clara felt every eye on her, every judgment, every condemnation. "Please, we're running out of supplies. My husband's cattle are dying." "We just need—" "Your husband should have thought about that before marrying a scandal." Mrs. Henderson turned her back. "Now leave, before I have my husband escort you out." Clara's vision blurred. She turned, pushed through the crowd, made it outside before the tears came. She leaned against the building, breathing hard, fighting to maintain control. That was cruel. Clara looked up. Mrs. Harlan stood there, basket over her arm. Even for Lucy Henderson, that was cruel. "I just needed salt," Clara's voice broke. "And coffee, that's all." Mrs. Harlan's expression softened. Come with me." She led Clara down the street, away from the mercantile, to a small building Clara hadn't noticed before. "This is my sister's place. She runs a small store, mostly for the ranch hands." Mrs. Harlan opened the door. "May, you here?" A woman emerged from the back, older than Mrs. Harlan, rounder, kinder eyes. "Nora, what brings you—" She saw Clara. "Oh." "May, this is Clara Callahan, Ethan's wife. She needs supplies." May studied Clara for a long moment. "Heard what happened at the wedding, and at Henderson's just now." Clara's heart sank. "I understand if you don't want to. I didn't say that." May moved behind her counter. "What do you need?" "Salt, coffee, whatever else you can spare. I can pay cash." May started pulling items from shelves. "How's Ethan holding up? Heard about the cattle." "He's struggling. We all are. Drought's hitting everyone hard." May wrapped the supplies. "But he's a good man. Helped my husband last winter when we were short on feed. Didn't ask for anything in return." She set the packages on the counter. "That'll be $2. Clara counted out the money. "Thank you. Truly." "Don't thank me yet." May's voice dropped. "You should know, there's talk about bringing this to the town council. Mrs. Thornton's pushing for it. Says Willow Creek needs to maintain certain standards." "Standards for what? For who's allowed to stay?" May's face was apologetic. "She wants to run you out of town, honey. Official-like." Clara's world tilted. "Can she do that? If she gets enough support, maybe." May glanced at Mrs. Harlan. "Council meets Wednesday, 3 days from now." Mrs. Harlan's face hardened. "Over my dead body." "Nora, you can't fight the whole ladies' auxiliary." "Watch me." Mrs. Harlan took Clara's arm. "Come on, we got work to do." She dragged Clara out of the store, down the street, straight to the church. Pastor Mitchell was inside, arranging hymn books. He looked up, saw them. His face went carefully neutral. "Mrs. Harlan, Mrs. Callahan." "Don't you Mrs. Callahan me, James Mitchell." Mrs. Harlan's voice was sharp. "You gonna stand there and let your congregation drive an innocent woman out of town?" "I don't know what you're referring to." "The town council meeting, Wednesday, where Mrs. Thornton plans to vote on whether Clara's allowed to stay." Pastor Mitchell's face flushed. "That's not— the council doesn't have authority to—" "But they'll try anyway, and you know it." Mrs. Harlan stepped closer. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stand up at that meeting. You're going to remind everyone that this church is built on forgiveness, on second chances, on believing people when they tell the truth." "Mrs. Harlan, I can't take sides in a community dispute." "You already did." Mrs. Harlan's voice was ice. "The moment you married them, you stood up there and pronounced them husband and wife before God. That means something. Or does it only mean something when the bride's reputation is spotless?" Pastor Mitchell looked at Clara. "I'm sorry for what you're going through. But the town has concerns. The town has gossip," Mrs. Harlan cut him off. "And you're going to choose, right now. Are you a man of God? Or a man who bends to whatever Mrs. Thornton and her harpies demand?" Silence stretched. Finally, Pastor Mitchell spoke. "I'll think about it." "You do that." Mrs. Harlan turned, pulled Clara toward the door. "And while you're thinking, remember that Jesus ate with sinners, defended the accused, stood with the outcast." They left. Outside, Clara's legs nearly gave out. "I'm going to be run out of town." "Not if I have anything to say about it." "Mrs. Harlan, you can't fight this. It's too big. Too many people." "Then we make it bigger." Mrs. Harlan's eyes were fierce. "We make so much noise they can't ignore us." "How?" "Leave that to me." She squeezed Clara's hand. "You just get those supplies back to Ethan. And don't you dare give up. Clara walked home in a daze. The supplies felt heavy. Her future felt heavier. She made it to the ranch by mid-afternoon. Ethan was in the barn. She found him mucking stalls, shirt off, sweat dripping. He looked up, saw her face. What happened? Clara told him everything. Henderson's refusal. May's warning. The town council meeting. Ethan's jaw clenched tighter with every word. When she finished, he threw his pitchfork against the wall. They want to run you out of town. It's not just me. It's us. Our marriage. Everything. Ethan paced, hands in fists. I won't let them. How are you going to stop them? I don't know. He turned, face hard. But I didn't survive a war. Didn't build this ranch from nothing. Didn't stand up in that church and marry you, just to let a bunch of narrow-minded hypocrites tear it all down. Ethan, no. His voice was firm. You're my wife. This is your home. And anyone who wants to change that is going to have to go through me first. The barn door opened. Tom stood there, face pale. Boss, we got a problem. What now? Rider coming, from town. Says there's someone at Henderson's asking questions about Clara. Clara's blood ran cold. Who? Don't know, but he's from back east, Philadelphia. The world stopped. Ethan's eyes met Clara's. Edwin Mercer. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The man who destroyed her life, here, in Willow Creek. Tom, saddle my horse. Ethan's voice was deadly calm. Boss, if you go into town, saddle my horse. Tom left. Ethan turned to Clara. Stay here. No. Clara grabbed his arm. If he's here, I need to face him. Clara, he destroyed my reputation once. He doesn't get to do it again while I hide. Her voice shook but held firm. I'm coming with you. Ethan stared at her, then nodded once. Get your bonnet. They rode into town 20 minutes later. The main street was crowded. More people than usual, all gathering outside Henderson's. Clara's stomach churned. They dismounted, pushed through the crowd. Inside Henderson's, a man stood at the counter. Tall, handsome, well-dressed. Edwin Mercer. He turned, saw Clara, smiled. Clara Whitmore. Or should I say, Mrs. Callahan now? Clara's hands shook, but she forced herself to speak. What are you doing here? Business trip. Imagine my surprise when I heard the name Clara Whitmore in a telegram to Sheriff Boone. Edwin's smile widened. I thought to myself, couldn't possibly be the same Clara Whitmore, the one who tried to seduce me back in Philadelphia. The crowd gasped. That's a lie. Clara's voice was steady. You know it's a lie. Is it? Edwin turned to the crowd. I have witnesses. My father, the other teachers. They all saw how you looked at me, how you followed me. I never. You cornered me in the library, Clara, tried to kiss me. When I rejected you, you made up lies to ruin my reputation. That's not what happened. Clara stepped forward. You cornered me. You tried to force yourself on me. When I refused, you lied to protect yourself. Edwin laughed. And who's going to believe that? A desperate woman who fled across the country? Or me, engaged to Senator Bradford's daughter, with a spotless reputation? Ethan moved. One step. His hand went to Edwin's collar. Say another word about my wife, and I'll... You'll what? Edwin's eyes gleamed. Hit me? In front of all these witnesses? That'll help your wife's reputation. Sheriff Boone pushed through the crowd. Callahan, let him go. Not until he takes back what he said. Can't make a man take back the truth. Boone's voice was cold. Now let go, before I arrest you for assault. Ethan's hands clenched, but he stepped back. Edwin straightened his collar, smirked. Thank you, Sheriff. I was just telling these good people about Miss Whitmore's, Mrs. Callahan's unfortunate behavior back east. That behavior being what exactly? Mrs. Harlan's voice cut through. She pushed to the front. That she refused your advances? That she told the truth about what you tried to do? Edwin's smile faltered. I don't know who you are, madam, but I'm someone who knows a liar when I see one. Mrs. Harlan crossed her arms. And I'm wondering, if Clara's the problem, why'd you travel all the way to Wyoming Territory just to repeat your accusations? I'm here on business. What business? We ain't got senators here. We ain't got prestigious families. What possible business could you have in Willow Creek? Edwin's jaw tightened. My fiancé's father has investments out west. You're simply here to finish destroying a woman you already ruined once. Mrs. Harlan's voice was ice. Because even though you got away with it, even though you're engaged to your precious senator's daughter, you still can't stand that Clara survived. That's ridiculous. Is it? Clara found her voice, found her courage. Then why are you here, Edwin? Why travel 2,000 miles to a town you've never been to? To tell stories about a woman you claim meant nothing to you? Edwin's face flushed. I'm simply setting the record straight. You're scared. Clara's voice grew stronger. Scared that someone might believe me. Scared that your lies might finally catch up with you. She turned to the crowd. He did this to 2 other women before me. 2 other teachers. Both accused him of the same thing. Both left under the same circumstances. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. That's a lie, Edwin started. Sheriff Boone told me himself. Clara looked at Boone. Didn't you, Sheriff? Your colleague in Philadelphia found the records. 2 other women. 2 other accusations. Boone's face was unreadable, but he didn't deny it. Edwin's smile cracked. Those were misunderstandings. 3 misunderstandings? Mrs. Harlan's voice was sharp. 3 separate women, all lying about the same man? That's a mighty big coincidence. You don't understand. Edwin's composure slipped. These women, they throw themselves at men of means. When they're rejected, they make accusations. I never threw myself at you, Clara's voice rang clear. I turned you down multiple times. You couldn't accept that a woman would refuse you. So you destroyed my reputation to protect your pride. That's not, I have proof. The words came out before Clara could stop them. The crowd went silent. Edwin's face went white. What proof? Clara's mind raced. She didn't have proof. She'd burned his letters years ago in a fit of rage. Except one letter, the one she'd kept, hidden in the bottom of her trunk. The one where Edwin had written inappropriate things, suggested meeting in secret, all before he'd cornered her in the library. I kept your letters, Edwin. Clara's voice was steady. The ones where you pursued me, where you suggested improper meetings, where you wrote things no gentleman should write to a lady. Edwin's face went from white to red. Those letters were what? Ethan's voice was deadly quiet. Innocent? Appropriate? This is absurd. Edwin turned to leave. I don't have to stand here and... Running? Clara's voice stopped him. That's what you do, isn't it? When the truth gets too close. You run. You lie. You let women take the fall for your behavior. Edwin spun back, face twisted with rage. You think you've won? You think hiding out here in the middle of nowhere changes anything? He stepped closer, dropped his voice so only Clara could hear. I will destroy you. Again. I'll make sure every person in this town knows what you really are. I'll ruin your husband's business, his reputation, everything he's built. And there's nothing you can do to stop me. Clara stared at him, at the man who'd haunted her nightmares for 2 years. And suddenly, she wasn't afraid anymore. You already tried to destroy me, Edwin, and I'm still here, still standing, still fighting. Her voice was rock steady. But you're engaged to a woman you don't love, living a lie, terrified that someone might see through your perfect reputation. She leaned closer. So go ahead, try to destroy me again. But this time, I've got something I didn't have in Philadelphia. What's that? People who believe me. Clara looked at Ethan, at Mrs. Harlan, at May, who'd appeared in the crowd, at Tom, at a dozen other faces who'd stopped to listen. Not everyone, but enough. So do your worst, Edwin Mercer, because I'm done running. I'm done being ashamed. And I'm done letting you win. Edwin's hands clenched. For a moment, Clara thought he might actually strike her. Then Sheriff Boone stepped between them. I think you should leave, Mr. Mercer. Edwin's eyes widened. What? You heard me. Leave. Now. But I'm the victim here. You're a man who traveled 2,000 miles to harass a woman who's trying to start a new life. Boone's voice was hard. That don't sit right with me, regardless of what happened back east. This is outrageous. This is my town. Boone stepped closer. And I'm telling you to get out, before I find a reason to lock you up. Edwin looked around, at the crowd, at the faces that had turned from sympathetic to suspicious. You're all fools. He grabbed his hat. She's lying about everything, and you'll see, when her past catches up with her, when more truth comes out. Get out. Boone's hand went to his gun. Edwin left, stormed out of Henderson's. The crowd parted. Through the window, Clara watched him mount his horse, saw the fury on his face. Then he was gone. Silence filled the store. Finally, Mrs. Henderson spoke. Is it true? About the letters? Clara turned. Yes. And the other women? Clara looked at Boone. He nodded slowly. My colleague confirmed it. 2 other teachers, same accusations. Both left their positions. Mrs. Henderson's face crumpled. I called you a woman of questionable character. You did. I refused you service. You did. Mrs. Henderson's hands shook. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. I should have asked. Should have given you a chance to explain. Yes. Clara's voice was quiet. You should have. She turned to leave, Ethan's hand at her back. Wait. Mrs. Henderson's voice stopped her. The supplies you needed, salt and coffee, let me... I got what I needed from May. Clara kept walking. And she didn't make me beg for it. They made it outside. The crowd had dispersed. Only a few stragglers remained. Tom waited with the horses. That was something, ma'am. Clara couldn't speak. Adrenaline was crashing. Her whole body shook. Ethan helped her onto the horse. Let's go home. They rode in silence. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and red. Halfway home, Clara's voice broke the quiet. I lied. Ethan looked at her. About what? The letters. I don't have them anymore. I burned them 2 years ago. Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, actually smiled. Good bluff. I shouldn't have lied. You did what you had to do. His voice was firm, and it worked. He's gone. For now, Clara's throat tightened. But he'll come back. Men like him always do. Let him try. Ethan's jaw set. Next time, we'll be ready. They reached the ranch as full dark fell. Tom helped them unsaddle. You did good today, Mrs. Callahan. Tom's voice was gruff. Real good. Inside, Clara collapsed into a chair. Ethan brought her water. She drank, hands still shaking. He looked so shocked. Clara's voice was hollow. When the sheriff told him to leave. When people didn't automatically believe him. He couldn't comprehend it. Men like Edwin Mercer never can. Ethan knelt beside her chair. They're so used to winning, to everyone taking their word as gospel. When someone finally stands up to them, they don't know what to do. Clara looked at him. Thank you. For what? For not doubting me, even for a second. When he was saying all those things, you never wavered. Ethan's hand covered hers. I know who you are, Clara. Not who Edwin Mercer says you are. Who you actually are. And who's that? Someone who survived hell and came out stronger. His voice was quiet. Someone who traveled 2,000 miles alone. Someone who stood in a church and told the truth, even when it meant losing everything. Someone who faced the man who destroyed her and didn't back down. He squeezed her hand. That's who you are, and that's who I married. Clara's eyes filled with tears. A knock at the door interrupted them. Ethan stood, opened it. Mrs. Harlan stood there, and May, and Pastor Mitchell. We need to talk, Mrs. Harlan's voice was urgent, about Wednesday's council meeting. Ethan stepped back. Let them enter. Mrs. Harlan didn't waste time. Mrs. Thornton's moving the council meeting up, tomorrow night instead of Wednesday. Clara's stomach dropped. Why? Because Edwin Mercer rode straight to her house after leaving town. Spent an hour filling her head with more lies. May's face was grim. Now she's convinced the council needs to act immediately, before Clara corrupts the whole community. Pastor Mitchell cleared his throat. I tried to reason with her, reminded her that the church stands for forgiveness. She told me the church also stands for moral standards. Moral standards, Mrs. Harlan's voice dripped contempt. That woman wouldn't know morality if it bit her. What exactly is she proposing? Ethan's voice was tight. Pastor Mitchell pulled a paper from his pocket. She's drafted a resolution, asking the council to officially condemn Clara's presence in Willow Creek. Revoke your business licenses. Make it impossible for you to operate the ranch. The words hit like physical blows. They can't do that, Clara's voice shook. Can they? Town council has broad authority. Pastor Mitchell's face was apologetic. If they vote unanimously, they can make life very difficult for you. How many votes does she need? Ethan asked. 5 council members. She needs 3 votes to pass the resolution. And how many does she have? Pastor Mitchell hesitated. As of tonight, 4. Mrs. Thornton herself, Mr. Henderson, Judge Walsh, and Deputy Hale's father. That's more than 3. Clara's world tilted. The 5th member is Sheriff Boone. Mrs. Harlan's eyes were sharp. And he ain't declared which way he's votin'. Silence fell. Finally, Ethan spoke. So everything depends on Boone. Looks that way. Ethan's jaw clenched. The man who's been against us from the start. Maybe, Mrs. Harlan's voice was careful. Maybe not. I saw his face today. When Edwin Mercer was spouting his lies, Boone looked uncertain. Uncertain ain't the same as supportive. Tom's voice came from the doorway. He'd been listening. Man's got a reputation for siding with the powerful, and Edwin Mercer's got more power than Clara. Not here he doesn't. May's voice was firm. Here, he's just a stranger making accusations, and Boone don't like strangers coming into his town causing trouble. Clara's mind raced. What if I talk to him, the sheriff, before the meeting? Bad idea, Ethan shook his head. He'll see it as you trying to influence his vote. Then what do we do? Just sit here and wait to be run out of town? Mrs. Harlan stepped forward. We fight. At the meeting, in front of everyone. We make our case. Show the town who Clara really is. They already think they know who I am. Clara's voice was bitter. Then we show them they're wrong. Mrs. Harlan's eyes blazed. We get people to speak for you. Character witnesses. People who've seen how you've conducted yourself since arriving. Who's going to speak for a woman they barely know? Clara looked around. Mrs. Henderson refused me service. Sarah Mitchell hates me. Half the town thinks I'm a... I'll speak. May's voice cut through. I'll tell them how you came to my store. How you paid fair. How you didn't complain or make excuses. Just asked for what you needed. With dignity. I'll speak too. Mrs. Harlan straightened. I'll tell them how you faced down that church full of judgment. How you stood beside Ethan even when you could have run. Pastor Mitchell was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. I'll speak. I'll remind the council that we're called to show grace, not condemnation. Tom stepped into the room. I'll speak. Tell them how you've worked the ranch, helped with the cattle, didn't complain once about the drought or the hardship. Clara's throat closed. She couldn't speak. Ethan's hand found hers. Then that's what we do. We show up tomorrow night. We tell the truth, and we trust that enough people will listen. And if they don't? Clara's voice was small. Then we leave. Ethan's voice was steady. Together. And we start over somewhere else. The words should have terrified her. Instead, they brought strange comfort. Whatever happened, she wouldn't face it alone. Mrs. Harlan stood. Meeting's at 7 tomorrow. Be there early. We'll need every minute to prepare. They left. Ethan closed the door behind them. Clara sank into the chair. This is really happening. Yeah. Ethan moved to the window, stared into darkness. It is. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I brought this to your door. Clara. He turned. His voice was firm. Stop apologizing. This ain't your fault. It's theirs. The people who chose gossip over truth, who chose judgment over grace. But your ranch is just a ranch. He crossed to her, knelt down. You're my wife. That matters more than any piece of land. Clara's eyes filled. You might not feel that way tomorrow after they vote. I'll feel the same way tomorrow as I do right now. His hands cupped her face. Married or exiled, prosperous or broke, don't matter. We're in this together. He kissed her forehead, gentle, protective. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be hard. Clara tried, but sleep wouldn't come. She lay awake listening to Ethan's breathing, watching shadows move across the ceiling, preparing for what morning would bring. The dawn came too fast and too slow at the same time. Clara rose, made coffee. Her hands shook as she poured. Ethan emerged from the bedroom. You sleep? No. Me neither. They drank in silence. Then Tom arrived. He looked exhausted. Creek's almost dry. Lost 2 more cattle overnight. Ethan's face went hard. How many does that make? 15 total. Half the herd. The numbers were devastating. Even Clara knew it. Without cattle, the ranch couldn't survive, even if they won tonight's vote. Maybe we should just leave. The words escaped before Clara could stop them. Pack up. Go somewhere the drought hasn't hit. Start over. No. Ethan's voice was absolute. We don't run. But we don't run. He stood. Tom, move the remaining cattle closer to the house, near the well. At least they'll have water. Boss, the well's running low too. I know. Just do it. Tom left. Ethan turned to Clara. Get dressed. We're going to town. Early. Why? Because I'm done waiting for other people to decide our fate. His voice was steel. If we're going to fight, we fight on our terms. They rode into town by mid-morning. The street was quieter than usual. People saw them coming, ducked into stores, avoided eye contact. Except one person. Sheriff Boone stood outside his office, arms crossed, watching them approach. Ethan dismounted, helped Clara down. Sheriff? Callahan. Boone's eyes flicked to Clara. Mrs. Callahan. We need to talk. Ethan's voice was level. About tonight's vote? About everything. Boone was quiet for a moment. Then he jerked his head toward his office. Come on. Inside, the office was spare. Desk, chairs, wanted posters on the wall. Boone sat, gestured for them to do the same. Say your piece. Ethan leaned forward. You've been against us from the start. I want to know why. Boone's eyebrows rose. Direct. I appreciate that. I'm done dancing around this. You got a problem with my wife? I want to hear it. Straight. Boone studied them both. Then he sighed. Heavy, like a man carrying weight he didn't want. 20 years ago, I was engaged. His voice was quiet. To a woman named Catherine. Beautiful, smart. Came from a good family back in St. Louis. Clara's breath caught. Her family didn't approve of me. Said I was too rough, too poor, not good enough for their daughter. Boone's hands clenched. Then one of their friends, wealthy man, son of a judge, started paying Catherine attention. She refused him. Multiple times. Clara's heart started pounding. He got angry, told everyone Catherine had been improper with him, that she'd led him on, ruined her reputation overnight. Boone's voice hardened. Her family believed him over her, sent her away, broke off our engagement, said they couldn't have their name associated with scandal. Silence filled the office. What happened to her? Clara's voice was barely a whisper. Don't know. Never saw her again. Boone looked up, met Clara's eyes. But when you got off that stage crying, when you confessed to Ethan that you'd lied, that you weren't the woman he thought you were, he paused. I thought you were going to be another Catherine, another woman whose reputation was destroyed by a powerful man's lies. Clara couldn't breathe. Then Edwin Mercer showed up yesterday. Boone's voice was hard. And I saw it. The same smug certainty. The same assumption that everyone would believe him. The same entitled rage when people dared to question his story. He stood, moved to the window. I sent another telegram to Philadelphia this morning. Asked my colleague to dig deeper. Find those other two teachers Mercer supposedly didn't assault. And? Ethan's voice was tight. Found one. She's married now, living in Baltimore. But she remembered everything. Boone turned back. She's willing to testify, if needed. Says she's been waiting years for someone to finally believe her story. Clara's hands flew to her mouth. Her testimony won't reach here in time for tonight's vote. Boone's face was grim. But it proves Edwin Mercer's a liar. And it proves you were telling the truth. Why are you telling us this? Clara's voice shook. Because I failed Catherine. Boone's voice was rough. I let her family send her away. Let that bastard get away with what he did. Let her face the consequences alone. He looked directly at Clara. I ain't gonna fail you, too. The words hung in the air. So you'll vote against the resolution? Ethan asked. I'll vote for what's right. Boone's jaw set, which means voting for your wife to stay, for you to keep your ranch, for this town to stop acting like a bunch of self-righteous hypocrites. Clara stood, crossed to him. Thank you. Boone nodded once. Don't thank me yet. My vote's just one, and Mrs. Thornton's got 4 others lined up. We need to change at least 2 minds before tonight. How do we do that? Leave that to me. Boone moved to the door. You 2 just show up tonight. Be ready to tell your story. All of it. Don't hold back. Don't pretty it up. Just tell the truth. They left the sheriff's office in a daze. On the street, people stared, whispered. Clara ignored them. Her mind was spinning. Sheriff Boone had a Catherine, a woman he'd loved, a woman whose story mirrored Clara's. And now he was fighting for Clara, because he hadn't fought for Catherine. The weight of it was crushing and liberating at the same time. We might actually win this. Clara's voice was small. We might. Ethan's hand found hers. But even if we don't... I know. Clara squeezed his hand. We're in this together. They spent the afternoon at the ranch, working, moving cattle, trying to stay busy, trying not to think about what was coming. At 6 o'clock, they changed clothes. Clara wore her blue dress, the one she'd worn to the wedding. Ethan wore his only good shirt. They rode to town as the sun set. The town hall was already packed, every chair filled, people standing against the walls. Clara's breath caught. The whole town had come. Mrs. Thornton sat at the council table, front and center. Her face was triumphant. Mr. Henderson sat beside her, looking uncomfortable. Judge Walsh, Deputy Hale's father, and Sheriff Boone, the 5 council members. Mrs. Thornton banged a gavel. This emergency session of the Willow Creek Town Council is now in session. The room fell silent. We're here tonight to address a matter of grave concern, Mrs. Thornton's voice carried clear. The presence in our community of a woman of questionable moral character, Mrs. Clara Callahan. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I have drafted a resolution, Mrs. Thornton held up a paper, stating that Clara Callahan's continued residence in Willow Creek threatens the moral fabric of our community, and recommending that she and her husband be denied business licenses, effectively forcing them to leave. Clara's hands clenched in her lap. Before we vote, I'll open the floor for testimony. Mrs. Thornton's smile was cold. Though I can't imagine what anyone could say to defend her. Mrs. Harlan stood. I'll speak. Mrs. Thornton's smile faltered. Mrs. Harlan, you don't need to. I do need to. Mrs. Harlan moved to the front. I've known Clara Callahan for less than a week, but in that week, I've seen more courage from her than I've seen from most people in a lifetime. She turned to face the crowd. She got off that stage in tears. Could have lied. Could have kept pretending to be something she wasn't. But she told the truth. Right there in front of everyone. That takes guts. It also reveals poor judgment, Mrs. Thornton started. It reveals honesty, Mrs. Harlan's voice sharpened. Something this town could use more of. Instead of gossip, instead of judgment, instead of condemning a woman before hearing her full story. She sat down. May stood. I'll speak too. Mrs. Thornton's face reddened. May, surely you don't... Clara came to my store when Henderson's refused her service. She didn't complain, didn't make a scene, just paid for her supplies and thanked me. May's voice was firm. That's the mark of a decent person, not a scandal. Tom stood. I work Ethan Callahan's ranch. Been working it for 3 years. And I'll tell you this, Clara's worked as hard as any ranch hand I've ever seen. Helping with the cattle, helping with the drought, never complaining, never making excuses. One by one, voices rose. Pastor Mitchell spoke about grace and forgiveness. A woman Clara didn't recognize spoke about her own past mistakes and how the town had forgiven her. Even some of the ranch hands who'd been at the boarding house dinner stood to speak. But Mrs. Thornton wasn't backing down. This is all very touching, but it doesn't change the facts. Clara Callahan was accused of improper conduct in Philadelphia. She fled rather than face the consequences, and now she's brought that scandal here. Those aren't facts, Sheriff Boone's voice cut through. Those are accusations, from a man who's made similar accusations against at least 2 other women. The crowd erupted. Mrs. Thornton banged her gavel. Sheriff Boone, you're out of order. I'm telling the truth, Boone stood. Edwin Mercer has a history, a pattern. 3 separate women, 3 separate accusations of the exact same behavior. He pulled out a telegram. I have testimony from one of those women. She's willing to swear under oath that Mercer assaulted her, just like he assaulted Clara. Mrs. Thornton's face went white. That's hearsay. It's evidence. Boone's voice was steel. And it proves Clara was telling the truth all along. The room exploded in noise. Arguments, accusations, shock. Clara sat frozen, unable to process what was happening. Then a new voice spoke, quiet but clear. I'd like to speak. Sarah Mitchell stood, pastor's daughter, the woman who'd been so cruel at dinner. Mrs. Thornton's face lit up. Yes, Sarah, please, tell them what you know. I want to apologize. Sarah's voice shook. To Clara, to everyone, for the things I said, the judgments I made, without knowing the full story. Mrs. Thornton's mouth fell open. My father's been teaching me about grace my whole life. Sarah looked at Clara. But I didn't practice it. I heard scandal and I assumed the worst. I'm sorry. She sat down. The silence was deafening. Mrs. Thornton's face cycled through emotions. Shock, rage, desperation. This doesn't change anything. Her voice was shrill. We still need to vote, to protect our community standards. What standards? A voice from the back. Everyone turned. Mrs. Henderson stood, face pale but determined. What standards are we protecting, Martha? Mrs. Henderson moved forward. The standard that says we believe men over women? The standard that says reputation matters more than truth? The standard that says we exile people rather than show them mercy? Mrs. Thornton sputtered. Lucy, you agreed. I was wrong. Mrs. Henderson's voice strengthened. I refused Clara's service, called her a woman of questionable character, without knowing her, without asking her side. I was wrong. She turned to Clara. I'm sorry, truly sorry, for my cruelty, for my judgment, for putting gossip above compassion. Tears streamed down Clara's face. Mr. Henderson, Mrs. Thornton turned desperate. Surely you'll vote with me. Mr. Henderson shifted uncomfortably. Actually, Martha, after hearing all this, I think I'm going to vote no on your resolution. Mrs. Thornton stood, face red. This is absurd. We had an agreement. Agreements can change, Judge Walsh's voice was quiet, especially when new evidence comes to light. I'm voting no as well. Mrs. Thornton's face crumpled. You can't. Call the vote, Martha. Sheriff Boone's voice was firm. It's time. Mrs. Thornton sat down, defeated. Her hands shook as she picked up the gavel. All in favor of the resolution to condemn Clara Callahan and revoke the Callahan Ranch business licenses? Only one hand rose, Mrs. Thornton's own. Deputy Hale's father looked uncomfortable, but he didn't raise his hand. All opposed? 4 hands rose. Henderson, Walsh, Hale's father, Boone. The resolution fails, Boone's voice carried clear. By a vote of 4-1, Clara Callahan is free to remain in Willow Creek, and the Callahan Ranch will retain all business licenses. The room erupted in applause. Not everyone, but enough. Clara couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process. They'd won. She'd won. Ethan pulled her to her feet, wrapped her in his arms. It's over. Clara buried her face in his chest, sobbed. Great heaving sobs of relief and release and disbelief. Around them, people approached, shook Ethan's hand, nodded to Clara. Some apologized. Some just looked relieved. Mrs. Harlan pushed through the crowd, pulled Clara into a fierce hug. Told you we'd fight. May was next, then Tom, then Pastor Mitchell. Even Mrs. Henderson approached. I meant what I said. I'm sorry. And if you ever need supplies, you're welcome in my store. Always. Clara could only nod. Words were beyond her. Outside, thunder rumbled. Real thunder this time. Everyone poured into the street. Looking up, dark clouds rolled in. Heavy. Pregnant with rain. The first drops fell. Slow. Then faster. Then a deluge. Rain crashed down, soaking everyone, washing the dust from the street, from the buildings, from everything. People laughed, threw their hands up. Children danced. The drought was breaking. Clara stood in the rain, face tilted up, tears mixing with rainwater. Ethan pulled her close. Come on, let's go home. They rode through the storm, rain pounding, lightning flashing, the whole world washing clean. At the ranch, Tom was already moving cattle to drink from the suddenly flowing creek. It's a miracle, he shouted over the rain. A damn miracle! Inside, Clara and Ethan stood dripping, staring at each other. We won. Clara's voice was small. We actually won. You won. Ethan pulled her close. You stood up, told your truth, faced down everyone who doubted you. I couldn't have done it alone. You didn't have to. His voice was soft. That's what marriage means. Facing things together. Clara looked up at him. This man who'd defended her from the start. Who'd risked everything. Who'd stood beside her when the whole town turned against them. I love you. The words came out before she could stop them. I know it's too soon. I know we barely know each other, but Ethan kissed her. Deep. Real. Full of everything words couldn't say. When he pulled back, his voice was rough. I love you too. Outside, the rain continued, washing away the drought, the dust, the judgment, giving them a fresh start, a real chance, together. The rain lasted 3 days. By the 4th morning, the ranch had transformed. Green shoots pushed through soil. The creek ran full. Cattle drank deep and stopped dying. Clara stood at the kitchen window watching Ethan and Tom work. Her husband. The word still felt foreign, but less so each day. Coffee's ready, she called out. Ethan came in, kissed her cheek like he'd been doing it for years instead of days. Creek's holding steady. We might actually make it through fall. Might? Will, he corrected himself, smiled. We will make it. Tom entered behind him. Boss, got news from town. Mrs. Thornton's leavin'. Clara's head snapped up. What? Packing up. Moving back east to live with her sister. Tom poured coffee. Guess losing that vote was too much for her pride. Ethan's expression was neutral. When's she leavin'? End of the week. Clara should have felt triumphant. Instead, she felt hollow. I didn't want to drive anyone out of town. You didn't. Ethan's voice was firm. She drove herself out, by choosing judgment over grace. A knock at the door interrupted them. Mrs. Harlan stood there, and behind her, a group of women. Mrs. Henderson, May, Sarah Mitchell, even some Clara didn't recognize. We need to talk. Mrs. Harlan's voice was serious. Clara's stomach tightened. About what? About the school. Clara blinked. What school? Willow Creek's school. Mrs. Henderson stepped forward. We haven't had a proper teacher in 2 years, not since Mrs. Crawford passed. The children have been learning at home, or not at all. May nodded. We heard you were a teacher back in Philadelphia, before... She stopped. We were wondering if you'd consider teaching here. The words didn't make sense. Clara stared at them. You want me to teach? The children need education. Sarah Mitchell's voice was quiet. And you're qualified. More qualified than anyone else in town. But I was dismissed. For lies, Mrs. Harlan cut her off. We know that now. The whole town knows it. So the question is, will you teach our children? Clara looked at Ethan. He nodded. Your choice. Her choice. Not someone else's decision. Not exile forced upon her. Her choice. Yes, the word came out stronger than she expected. Yes, I'll teach. The women's faces broke into smiles. There's one problem. Mrs. Henderson's expression turned apologetic. We don't have a schoolhouse. The old one burned down last winter. We've been saving to rebuild, but... The drought took everyone's savings, Clara finished. I understand. We could use the church, Sarah started. No. Ethan's voice was firm. Everyone turned. You'll use the barn. Clara's eyes widened. Ethan, you need the barn for... We'll make do. His jaw set. Tom and I can build a lean-to for equipment. The barn's solid, dry, big enough for 20 children easy. Tom nodded. I'll help clean it out, make it suitable. We can provide desks, Mrs. Henderson was already planning, and books, whatever you need. When can you start? May asked. Clara's mind raced. Give me 2 weeks to prepare lessons, set up the space. 2 weeks, Mrs. Harlan squeezed her hand. Perfect. After they left, Clara sank into a chair. I'm going to teach again. You're going to do more than teach. Ethan knelt beside her. You're going to show this town what real strength looks like. The 2 weeks passed in a blur. Ethan and Tom converted the barn, built desks from spare lumber, whitewashed the walls, hung a chalkboard Tom found in Henderson's storage. Clara prepared lessons, ordered books from Denver, borrowed others from Pastor Mitchell's small library. Word spread. Parents brought their children to meet her. Some were cautious, others grateful, all desperate for their children to learn. The night before school started, Clara couldn't sleep. What if they don't respect me? She whispered in the darkness. What if the parents change their minds? Ethan pulled her closer. Then you prove them wrong, one day at a time. What if I'm not good enough? You're more than good enough. His voice was absolute. You survived Philadelphia, survived scandal, survived a town trying to exile you. Teaching 20 children's going to be easy compared to that. Clara wanted to believe him. Morning came too fast. She dressed carefully. Her best dress, hair pinned neat, trying to look like a teacher, not a woman who'd arrived in tears 6 weeks ago. Ethan walked her to the barn. You ready? No. He smiled. Good. Means you care. He kissed her, turned to leave. Ethan? He stopped. Thank you for believing in me when no one else did. His eyes held hers. I'll always believe in you. He left. Clara took a breath, opened the barn door. 20 children sat at desks, ages 6 to 15, all staring at her with wide eyes. And in the back, parents. Mrs. Henderson, May, Mrs. Harlan, Sarah Mitchell, even Sheriff Boone, watching, judging, waiting to see if she'd fail. Clara's hands shook, but she forced them steady. Good morning, her voice carried clear. My name is Mrs. Callahan, and I'm honored to be your teacher. A small hand raised, a girl about 8. Is it true you came from Philadelphia? Yes. Is it true you were accused of something bad? The adult shifted uncomfortably. Clara's throat tightened, but she'd promised herself. No more hiding, no more shame. Yes, a man lied about me, said I'd done things I hadn't. It destroyed my reputation, my career, my whole life in Philadelphia. The children's eyes were huge. But you came here anyway? An older boy asked. I did, because sometimes starting over is the only choice you have. Were you scared? Clara's voice softened. Terrified, every single day. But I learned something important. Being scared doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're brave enough to try anyway. She looked around at all their faces. And that's what I want to teach you. More than reading and writing and arithmetic. I want to teach you courage. How to stand up when people try to knock you down. How to tell the truth even when it costs you. How to be kind even when others aren't. Silence fell. Then the 8-year-old girl spoke again. I think you're brave, Mrs. Callahan. Clara's eyes filled. Thank you. Can we start learning now? Clara smiled. Actually smiled. Yes, let's start. The day flew. Reading lessons, basic arithmetic, geography, history. The children were hungry for knowledge, asked questions, participated, laughed. By the time Clara dismissed them at 3 o'clock, she was exhausted, exhilarated, transformed. Mrs. Henderson approached. That was wonderful, truly. Thank you. My daughter hasn't stopped talking about what you said, about courage. Mrs. Henderson's voice dropped. I'm glad you're here, Clara. Glad you stayed. One by one, parents thanked her, praised her, welcomed her. When they all left, Clara stood alone in the barn-turned schoolhouse. Tears streamed down her face. Not from sadness, from joy. From the impossible realization that she'd done it. She'd survived. Rebuilt. Transformed. Ethan found her 20 minutes later. How'd it go? Clara threw herself into his arms. It was perfect. That night, lying in bed, Clara's mind wouldn't settle. I want to write to Margaret, she said suddenly. Ethan turned. Your friend in Philadelphia? Yes, the one who sent the letter about Edwin's engagement. Clara sat up. I want to tell her what happened here, about the town, the vote, the school, everything. Why? Because she said Edwin won, that he got his perfect life while I carried his lies. Clara's voice strengthened. I want her to know she was wrong, that I didn't just survive, I thrived. Ethan pulled her back down. Then write to her. Tomorrow. Clara did. A long letter, detailing everything. The marriage, the drought, the town council, the school. She ended with, Edwin Mercer didn't win. He lied and got away with it. But that's not winning. That's just being a coward, living a false life. I'm building something real here, with a man who believes me, a community that accepts me, children who look up to me. That's winning. She mailed it the next day. 3 weeks later, a response arrived. Clara's hands shook as she opened it. Dear Clara, your letter left me speechless and ashamed. Ashamed that I believed Edwin's victory was complete. Ashamed that I didn't fight harder for you when the scandal broke. Ashamed that I let fear keep me silent. But your letter also gave me courage. Because if you can stand up to an entire town, if you can rebuild from nothing, if you can turn shame into strength, then maybe I can too. I'm writing to tell you something I should have told you 2 years ago. I know Edwin lied. I know because he tried the same thing with me. Clara's breath stopped. A year before you started teaching at the school, Edwin cornered me after a church social. Tried to kiss me. I pushed him away. The next day, he told his father I'd been inappropriate. His father didn't believe him, because my father is wealthy enough that even the headmaster couldn't risk offending him. So Edwin dropped it, and I stayed silent, because I was too afraid of scandal, too afraid of losing my reputation. But after I sent you that first letter, after I saw how his lies had destroyed you while he faced no consequences, I couldn't stay silent anymore. I've written to the other 2 teachers Sheriff Boone mentioned, the ones Edwin assaulted before you. Both have agreed to come forward, to testify publicly about what he did. We're going to the newspapers, to the police, to anyone who'll listen. Edwin Mercer's engagement to Senator Bradford's daughter will likely survive. Money and power protect men like him. But at least people will know the truth. At least we won't be silent anymore. Thank you, Clara, for your courage, for your example, for showing me that surviving isn't enough. We have to speak. Your friend, Margaret. Clara read the letter 3 times. Then she showed Ethan. He read it silently, then looked up. She's going to risk everything. Because I did first, Clara's voice shook. My story gave her courage to tell hers. What if it doesn't work? What if Edwin's family is too powerful? Then at least they tried. Clara's hands clenched. That's more than anyone did for me in Philadelphia. 2 months passed. Fall arrived. The ranch thrived. Cattle grew fat on green grass. The drought became a memory. School continued. Clara's students flourished. Parents praised her. The town embraced her. Then one afternoon, Sheriff Boone arrived at the ranch. His face was grim. Clara's stomach dropped. What's wrong? Boone handed her a newspaper. Philadelphia Times, 3 weeks old. The headline read, Senator's daughter breaks engagement after assault allegations surface. Clara's hand shook as she read. Margaret Winston, daughter of steel magnate Charles Winston, along with 2 other women, have come forward with detailed accusations against Edwin Mercer, son of prestigious headmaster Robert Mercer. All 3 women allege inappropriate conduct and assault over a 5-year period. Senator Bradford's daughter, Miss Elizabeth Bradford, has broken her engagement to Mr. Mercer, stating, I cannot in good conscience marry a man whose character has been credibly questioned by multiple women. Mr. Mercer denies all allegations and has retained legal counsel. The article continued. Pages of detail. Margaret's testimony. The other women's stories, all corroborating Clara's experience. Clara looked up at Boone, tears streaming. They did it. They actually did it. They destroyed his engagement, his reputation, his perfect life. Boone's voice was rough. Edwin Mercer's facing consequences for the first time in his life, because you had the courage to tell your truth first. Ethan read over Clara's shoulder. It says here he's being investigated. Might face criminal charges. Might, Boone cautioned. Rich men like him got lawyers, got connections. He might still walk away. But his reputation's ruined. Clara's voice was fierce. Everyone knows what he did. He can't hide behind his father anymore, can't destroy more women. That's justice, even if it's not perfect justice. That evening, Clara stood at the schoolhouse window, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and red. Behind her, Ethan's arms wrapped around her waist. You changed the world today. I didn't do anything. Margaret did. The other women did. You gave them courage. Ethan's voice was soft. By surviving. By refusing to stay silent. By building a new life despite everything. Clara turned in his arms. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could. His eyes held hers. You're the strongest person I know, Clara Callahan. You just needed someone to believe in you, long enough for you to believe in yourself. The next week, more letters arrived. From Margaret. From the other women. From people Clara had never met who'd read the newspaper story and wanted to thank her. One letter stood out. From Catherine, Sheriff Boone's lost love. Dear Mrs. Callahan, Sheriff Boone wrote to me, told me your story, how you stood up when I couldn't, how you faced down a whole town, how you refused to let lies define you. I want you to know, your courage inspired me too. After 20 years of silence, I finally told my family the truth about what happened, about the man who assaulted me, about how they chose his word over mine. They apologized. It doesn't fix the past, but it gives me peace. Thank you for showing me that it's never too late to speak truth. Yours, Catherine. Clara showed the letter to Boone the next time he visited. He read it silently. His hands shook. She forgave them. His voice was rough. After everything they did to her. She found peace, Clara corrected gently. That's more important than revenge. Boone looked up. You're going to make a real difference here, Mrs. Callahan. To these children, to this town, to people you'll never even meet. I'm just teaching. You're doing more than that. Boone stood. You're showing people what courage looks like, what integrity looks like, what it means to survive and come out stronger. After he left, Ethan found Clara at her desk, grading papers. You're crying. Happy tears. Clara wiped her eyes. I keep thinking about that day I got off the stagecoach. How certain I was that my life was over. How I almost ran. But you didn't. Because you wouldn't let me. She looked at him. You stood beside me when you had every reason to walk away. You defended me when the whole town turned against us. You believed me when no one else would. Ethan knelt beside her chair. I didn't do anything special, Clara. I just saw who you really were, and I wasn't going to let lies define you. You did more than that. Clara's voice shook. You gave me a home, a family, a future. You gave me back myself. He kissed her, slow, deep, full of everything they'd survived together. Winter came. Snow fell. The ranch settled into quiet routine. School continued. Clara's students progressed. And one morning, Clara woke feeling different. She knew. Dr. Williams confirmed it 2 days later. "You're with child, Mrs. Callahan. About 8 weeks along." Clara's hands went to her stomach. "A baby. Due in early summer," the doctor smiled. "Congratulations." She told Ethan that night. He stared at her, speechless. Then he pulled her into his arms and held her so tight she could barely breathe. "We're gonna have a family." His voice was rough. "A real family. Are you happy?" Happy doesn't begin to cover it. He pulled back, looked at her. "You came here broken, scared, carrying shame that wasn't yours. And now," his voice caught, "now you're gonna bring new life into this world. Life that ain't defined by past scandal. That starts clean, pure, loved." Clara's tears fell. "I was so afraid when I got off that stagecoach, afraid I'd never be happy again, never be whole. And now? Now I'm happier than I ever imagined." She pressed her hand to her stomach. "We survived, Ethan. We actually survived." "We did more than survive." His hand covered hers. "We built something beautiful." Spring arrived. The schoolhouse expansion was complete. More desks, more books, more students. Clara's belly grew. The town celebrated. Women brought baby clothes, offered advice, welcomed her completely. Mrs. Henderson threw a party. For the teacher who changed our town. Clara stood in Henderson's Mercantile, the place that had once refused her service, surrounded by women who'd once judged her. Now they laughed together, shared stories, planned for the future. Sarah Mitchell approached. "I never apologized properly for how cruel I was at that first dinner." "You apologized at the council meeting." "Not enough." Sarah's voice was firm. "You showed me what real courage looks like, what real faith looks like. I was so busy judging others, I forgot what grace actually means." She pulled out a small package. "This is for the baby. I made it myself." Inside was a blanket, hand-knitted, beautiful. Clara's throat closed. "Sarah, this is my way of saying thank you for teaching me to be better." That night, Clara stood at the schoolhouse window, her hand on her growing belly. Behind her, Ethan's arms wrapped around her. "What are you thinking about?" "About the woman who got off that stagecoach. How terrified she was. How certain her life was over. And now? Now she's teaching children, carrying a baby, surrounded by people who love her." Clara turned in his arms. "She won, Ethan. Despite everything Edwin Mercer did, despite every lie, despite every judgment, she won." "We won," Ethan corrected. "Together." Summer came. Clara's belly was huge. Dr. Williams said any day now. School had ended for the season. Students promised to return in fall. And on a hot July afternoon, exactly 1 year after Clara had arrived in Willow Creek, the baby came. Labor was hard, long, painful. But when Clara heard that first cry, nothing else mattered. "A girl!" Dr. Williams placed the baby in her arms. Healthy. Perfect. Clara stared at her daughter. Tiny. Red. Beautiful. Ethan entered, saw them, stopped dead. "We have a daughter." Clara's voice shook. He crossed the room, knelt beside the bed, touched the baby's head with one finger. "She's perfect." "What should we name her?" Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Catherine. Clara looked at him. Understanding flooded through her. After the woman who never got justice, who never got a second chance. His voice was rough. So she'll always remember that truth matters, that courage matters, that standing up for what's right, even when it costs you everything, matters. Clara's tears fell onto the baby's blanket. Catherine Callahan. The baby's eyes opened, dark, seeing. Welcome to the world, Catherine, Clara whispered, where your mama was once ruined by lies, but refused to let lies define her. Where your papa defended truth when everyone else chose gossip. Where a whole town learned that grace matters more than judgment. She looked at Ethan. Where we built something real from the ruins of what we lost. Fall came again. School resumed. 25 students now. Word had spread. Clara taught with baby Catherine in a cradle at the back of the room. The children adored her, took turns rocking her when she fussed. One afternoon, a stranger arrived, well-dressed, official-looking. Mrs. Callahan, I'm from the Territorial Education Board. Clara's stomach dropped. Yes? We've been hearing about your school, about your methods, about how you've transformed education in Willow Creek. He pulled out a document. The board would like to offer you an official teaching position, with salary, with benefits, with recognition as the head teacher of Willow Creek School. Clara stared at the paper. Official seal. Her name. Everything she'd lost in Philadelphia. Restored. We'd also like to publish your story, the man continued, as an example to other communities. How one teacher's courage can transform a whole town. My story? Clara's voice was faint. About what happened in Philadelphia. About Edwin Mercer's lies. About how you rebuilt your life here. He met her eyes. We think it's important to show other women that false accusations don't have to destroy you, that you can survive, rebuild, thrive. Clara looked around the schoolhouse, at her students, at baby Catherine sleeping in the cradle, at the life she'd built from nothing. Yes, her voice strengthened. Yes, I'll share my story. If it helps even one woman, one person who thinks their life is over, then it's worth it. That evening, Clara stood on the porch with Ethan, watching the sunset. They want to publish my story, she said quietly. How do you feel about that? Scared, proud, grateful. She leaned against him. A year ago, I would have said no, would have been too ashamed, too afraid of more judgment. And now? Now I know my story isn't about shame. It's about survival, about refusing to let lies win, about finding people who believe in you. She looked at him. About love that doesn't demand perfection, just truth. Ethan kissed her forehead. I'm proud of you. For what? For being brave enough to get off that stagecoach. For being honest enough to tell the truth even when it cost you everything. For being strong enough to rebuild. His voice was rough. For choosing me. Choosing us. Choosing this life. Clara's hand found his. You chose me first. When you said, you don't have to pretend with me. Those words saved my life. Those words saved both our lives. Ethan pulled her closer. I was alone out here, surviving but not living. You gave me something to live for. Baby Catherine's cry drifted from inside. They went in together. Clara lifted their daughter. Ethan wrapped his arms around both of them. In that moment, Clara thought about the woman who'd arrived in tears 1 year ago. Broken, terrified, certain her life was over. That woman was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, Someone who'd faced her worst fears and survived. Someone who'd turned scandal into strength. Someone who'd built a real life from the ruins of a false accusation. Clara Callahan. Wife, mother, teacher, survivor. Edwin Mercer had tried to bury her with lies, but she'd refused to stay buried. She'd climbed out, rebuilt, transformed, and now she was helping others do the same. 6 months later, Clara's story was published in newspapers across 3 territories. Letters poured in, from women, from teachers, from people who'd survived their own scandals, all saying the same thing. Thank you for showing us it's possible. Thank you for refusing to give up. Thank you for turning shame into strength. Clara kept every letter, read them to Catherine when she couldn't sleep, reminded herself that her suffering had purpose, that her survival mattered. One letter stood out, from Edwin Mercer himself. Clara almost threw it away unread, but curiosity won. Clara, I read your story in the paper, about what happened in Willow Creek, about your new life. I won't apologize. I don't owe you that. But I will say this, you were right. My engagement is broken. My reputation is ruined. The women I once silenced are speaking, and I'm facing consequences for the first time in my life. I hate you for that. But I also envy you, because while my perfect life crumbled, yours flourished. While I'm facing disgrace, you're building something real. You won, Clara, not because you destroyed me, but because you refused to let me destroy you. I thought burying you with lies would make me powerful. Instead, it made you unstoppable. Edwin. Clara read the letter once, then burned it. She didn't need his admission, didn't need his envy, didn't need anything from him. She had Ethan, Catherine, her students, her town, her life. That was enough. More than enough. 2 years after stepping off that stagecoach in tears, Clara stood before the graduating class of Willow Creek School. 15 students, all moving on to higher education or trades. You've all grown so much. Her voice was thick with emotion. Not just in knowledge, but in character, in courage, in kindness. She looked around at their faces. When I first came here, I was broken, scared, certain my life was over. But this town, this community, showed me something powerful. That your past doesn't define you. Your choices do. Your courage does. Your refusal to give up does. One student raised her hand, the 8-year-old who'd asked if Clara was brave on that first day. Now 10, confident. Mrs. Callahan? You said once that being scared means you're brave enough to try anyway. That's what you taught us. That's what we'll remember. Clara's tears fell freely. Then I've done my job. After the ceremony, Ethan found her standing in the empty schoolhouse. Catherine, now walking and talking, played at her feet. Proud? He asked. Overwhelmed. Clara wiped her eyes. They're going out into the world, carrying what I taught them, making a difference. Like you made a difference. I just taught them to read and write. You taught them courage. Ethan's voice was firm. Integrity. How to stand up for truth. How to survive when everything falls apart. That's worth more than any book learning. Clara looked at him. This man who'd believed in her from the start. Who'd defended her when the whole world turned against them. Who'd given her a home when she had nothing. I love you, she said simply, for everything you are, everything you've done, everything you continue to do. I love you too. He pulled her close. And I'm going to keep loving you. Every day. For the rest of our lives. Catherine tugged at Clara's skirt. Mama? Story? Clara picked her up. What story do you want? The one about the lady who cried, and the cowboy who helped her. Clara's breath caught. Where did you hear that story? Mrs. Harlan told me. She said you were the lady, and Papa was the cowboy. Ethan's eyes met Clara's, both filled with tears. Yes, Clara's voice shook. That's our story. Tell it? Catherine's eyes were wide. Clara carried her daughter to a chair, sat down. Ethan settled beside them. Once upon a time, Clara began, there was a woman who came to a small town. She was crying, scared, broken by lies that weren't true. Catherine listened raptly. But a cowboy was waiting for her, a good man, a brave man. And when she told him the truth, that she'd been hurt by someone else's lies, he said 7 words that changed everything. What words, Mama? Clara looked at Ethan. You don't have to pretend with me. And then what happened? Then the cowboy defended her, even when the whole town turned against them, even when it cost him everything, because he believed her, and that belief saved both their lives. Did they live happily ever after? Clara looked around the schoolhouse, at Ethan, at Catherine, at the life they'd built together. They're still living it, she whispered, every single day. That night, after Catherine was asleep, Clara and Ethan stood on the porch. Stars blazed overhead. Do you ever think about Philadelphia? Ethan asked quietly. Sometimes. Clara's voice was thoughtful. But not with regret, with gratitude. Gratitude? For forcing me to leave, for pushing me west, for leading me to you. She turned to face him. If Edwin Mercer hadn't lied, if my father hadn't abandoned me, if I hadn't lost everything, I never would have found this. Found you. Found home. Ethan's arms wrapped around her. Then I'm grateful too, for every hardship that brought you here, for every tear that led you to my door, for every moment of pain that became a moment of grace. They stood together in the darkness, 2 people who'd survived the worst, who'd found each other in the ruins, who'd built something beautiful from the ashes of what they'd lost. Clara thought about that terrified woman stepping off the stagecoach, confessing her lies, expecting rejection. And she thought about the man who'd removed his hat, who'd said the words that changed everything, who'd stood beside her when the whole world turned away. They'd tried to bury her with rumors, but she'd refused to stay buried. Instead, she'd grown stronger, fiercer, more powerful than any lie could ever be. Because truth, real truth, always survives. And love, real love, always wins. Clara Callahan had learned that the hard way, but she'd learned it completely. And now she was teaching it to everyone who'd listen. One student, one story, one act of courage at a time. The mail-order bride had arrived in tears, but the woman who remained stood unshakable. Because she'd learned the most important lesson of all. When someone believes in you, truly believes, you can survive anything. Even lies meant to destroy you. Even a past designed to bury you. Even a world determined to break you. You can survive it all. And on the other side, you'll find something more valuable than any reputation, any scandal, any judgment could ever touch. You'll find yourself, whole, healed, home.